The Whistler in the Woods. This happened a few years ago when I was out hunting with a few friends in the Pacific Northwest. We weren't looking for anything strange, just a weekend to unwind, get away from work, and maybe bag a buck. It was supposed to be one of those trips where you forget about the world for a while. But what we found out there, well, it's haunted me ever since. Our group was made up of four guys: Tom, our leader and the most experienced outdoorsman; Eddie, a local guide who knew the area well; Carl, a tough, no nonsense guy who didn't believe in anything supernatural; and then there was me. I had been hunting before, but nothing like this. I guess you could say I was the rookie of the group. Eddie was the one who first brought up the stories about the area. As we made our way deeper into the forest, he started talking about this local legend, something they called the Whistler. Supposedly, people had heard this eerie, almost melodic whistling drifting through the trees, always at dusk. The story said that anyone who followed the sound never came back. Carl laughed it off, calling it campfire nonsense, but I could see how uneasy Eddie looked. I just figured it was part of the local lore, meant to spook outsiders. The hike was brutal, steep trails and thick underbrush. We eventually found the old campsite Eddie had heard about from other hunters. It was more like a clearing surrounded by dense forest, with a fire ring made of stones half buried in dirt. We set up camp just before dark, and Carl got a fire going while Eddie unpacked his gear. As we settled in, Eddie pointed out something odd: a set of massive footprints in the soft ground near the tree line. They looked almost human, but way too big. Carl snorted and said it was probably a bear, but Eddie wasn't so sure. Night fell fast in those woods, the fire was crackling, and we were just sitting around swapping stories when it started, the whistling. It was low and hollow, almost musical, like someone playing a tune just out of earshot. It moved, circling us, first to the left, then behind us, then off to the right. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, but the way it moved, it didn't make sense. Eddie stiffened up, muttering something about how it was a warning. Carl just shook his head and said it was nothing but the breeze, but Jack, he wasn't buying it. He grabbed his flashlight and muttered something about checking it out. I told him to sit tight, but he was dead set on proving it was nothing. He stepped out into the dark, his flashlight beam bouncing between the trees. Then, just like that, the whistling stopped. A long, tense silence hung over us. I strained my ears, trying to pick up any noise at all. That's when we heard it, a loud, muffled thud, followed by a scream. We bolted out of the camp, calling his name, but there was no answer, just his flashlight on the ground, the light flickering against the undergrowth. No sign of him, no tracks, no blood. It was like he'd just vanished. Carl insisted we keep looking, but Eddie wanted to get back to the fire, said it wasn't safe to be wandering around in the dark. We argued for a while, and finally Carl just stormed off on his own. Eddie and I followed, but we lost track of him fast. As we moved deeper into the trees, we saw strange claw marks scored high on the trunks, way higher than any bear could reach. Eddie cursed under his breath, saying something about how it marks its territory. And then we heard it, that roar. It was low, rumbling, and so loud it seemed to vibrate through my chest. When we reached the spot, all we found was Carl's rifle, snapped clean in half, and no sign of him. Eddie started muttering prayers under his breath, and I could see it in his eyes. He was terrified. We made it back to camp, and Eddie finally told me the whole story. The locals say the Whistler isn't just some spirit or ghost. It's a creature, massive and old, that stalks anyone who steps into its territory. The whistling isn't just noise, it's how it marks you, how it lets you know that you're not going to make it out. We sat there, clutching our rifles, when the whistling started again. Closer this time. The firelight flickered as something moved at the edge of camp. A shadow, massive, hunched, covered in dark, matted fur. Its breath was loud, snorting through the dark, and then a low, rumbling growl seemed to shake the ground beneath us. I was too scared to move, too scared to breathe. And then, howling, not one howl, dozens. It wasn't coming from the creature, it was coming from all around us. A pack of wolves, eyes glinting in the firelight, circled the camp. The creature hesitated, snorting as it seemed to weigh its odds. Then another shape appeared, taller, leaner, almost human, but with a canine head. It stood there, watching, while the wolves flanked it. The creature that had stalked us suddenly turned and fled, crashing through the trees. I stared at that figure, the one that wasn't a wolf. It looked right at me, yellow eyes piercing through the dark, and I felt like it was judging us, deciding if we were worth sparing. Then it tipped its head back and let out one long, haunting howl before leading the pack into the trees. By morning, we found nothing, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just the remnants of our camp and that unsettling silence. When we made it back to civilization, I tried to make sense of it, tried to convince myself it wasn't real. But I know what I saw, and I'll never forget that whistling, how it moved through the trees like it was claiming us. Some nights, when it's real quiet, I still hear it. I know it's impossible, but I swear I can hear that low, hollow whistle floating on the wind. Whatever's out there, it let us go, and I don't know why.